It is Tuesday, December 13th, 2022. And there are a couple of things that have come up on the last two episodes of The View that I think are worth talking about. Um, and they aren't about politics. Yesterday, Lily Collins was on. I've never seen Emily in Paris. Not really interested, but she was, and I didn't really know anything about her. I knew she was Phil Collins' daughter, but I didn't really know anything about her. And apparently, she had written a book talking about, um, body issues and eating disorders, and the way society treats um, uh, women and projects certain standards onto women that are unrealistic. And the, and it was great to see the women on the table saying, the generations that came after them, because all the women on the panel are obviously older than Lily Collins, and and it was basically a lot of um, a lot of the misogyny, a lot of the racism, a lot of the homophobia, a lot of things that are really being addressed right now are things that and sexual harassment for sure are things that we all just sort of took on the chin. Um, no, no pun intended on the sexual harassment thing. Anyway, um, that was poor choice of words. Anyway, that in some ways it was like, ugh, this stupid fucking old boys club or whatever, like, but this is the way it works, so figure out a way to work your way through it. And it really has been a cultural and generational shift to be like, hey, you know what, we're not putting up with this anymore. Which A, kudos, and B, damn, we should have done this earlier. um but I just sort of wanted to talk about her, her talking about in body issues and expectations for women. There's a song on the radio now by a woman. I think her name is Jax. I don't know that I've ever heard any of her music before, or if this is just going to be a one-hit wonder. Um, I think the song is called Victoria's Secret, but it talks about, it starts talking about her, if there was something I could tell my younger self story. And and the chorus is the story that she would tell her younger self, is that I know Victoria's secret. She's an old man who lives in Ohio, making money off of girls like me, cashing in on body issues, selling skin and bones with big boobs. I know Victoria's secret. She was made up by a dude. And then there's a chorus behind that goes, dude, which I think is hilarious. But that chorus runs probably five times in the song. I don't know. It takes up the bulk of the song. And it is like sung and then repeated right away. And then there's another verse and then sung and then repeated right away. And then the final line when she says, I know Victoria's Secret, and it instead of saying she was made up by a dude, the last line is she was never made for me and you. Um, which I think is a like, yes, this is it. Pop song activism, I am in for it. It's got a great hook, it sticks in your ear. I guess they call it an earworm. Um, like it uh and it's accurate, and it's telling a story and exposing some bullshit. Because that old man who lives in Ohio, created Victoria's Secret, is a total perv, and also is responsible for making a shit ton of money for Jeffrey Epstein. So much so that there was always sorts of speculation about whether or not Jeffrey Epstein was providing, because the old man in Ohio is either bisexual or homosexual, and was providing him some sort of favors. And it's never clear about whether it was Jeffrey Epstein who was doing it himself or providing, young boys to the old man in Ohio, whose name I can't remember. Um, but he also owns like the Limited and other fashion. I think he owns other fashion store brands. But that creep in Ohio is the one who created Victoria's Secret. And I just, the more those messages get out that, hey, don't be duped by this, the better. And if you can put it in a pop song and make it popular for the age bracket that needs to hear it, I'm all for it. So that I think was just an interesting uh, sort of topical moment. And then today, um, they were talking about, uh, I guess it was Ruth Wilson, who used to be on The Affair, on the Showtime program, um, talking about, she didn't believe in marriage, she didn't want to get married, blah, blah, blah. Um, and uh, and Whoopi said that, George Clooney used to say the same thing, but now he's got a wife and two kids. Um, but then she went on to say, and this is the part, because I've said this before, and I wholeheartedly believe this, that societal pressure about coupling up, and it isn't even specifically marriage, but it is, and whether you're gay or straight, it doesn't matter. The whole idea that you are required to couple up, um, the penultimate thing is to be married, and and we fought really hard to get same-sex marriage because we want the same rights as everybody else does. um I don't want to get married, um but I think we should have the right to do that. And Whoopi was spot on with, her assessment of her own life, because she's been married a couple of times. I think it's more than twice, but she admitted to a couple of them. um she said a couple of times, but I think it's more than twice. Anyway, by the way, I never do any research before I start talking about this stuff. So anyway, uh, and she said, she was doing it because she it was just ingrained in her that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be married. And I think that's true for a lot of people, that they go through the motions, and they sort of pick a partner that's like, all right, well, I got to do it, so this is fine. And they're not really happy, and they're not really in love, but they're doing it to sort of check the box. And I think that people do that same thing in relationships. They do that to check the box. And there was another discussion on the same episode talking about therapy, and I think if more people would go to therapy and sort of recognize within themselves what they want and what's good for them, as opposed to what they've been so ingrained and told is good for them, whether it's by society or their parents or their community. Like, you don't have to conform to whatever those things are, being sold to you in whatever form they're being sold, whether it's um, by edict, or sort of through osmosis of just living in this existence. Um, but it starts when we're little. I saw uh, somebody say something about their kids were in a hospital ward right after they were born. um and it was a guy's son and a guy's daughter. They were next to each other, and one of them said, hey, they could grow up to get married. It was like, well, what? Fuck off. They just got out of the womb, and you're trying to couple them up already. But it's that kind of expectation. How many times have you seen people tell little kids, you got a boyfriend, you got a girlfriend? It's like, shut up, they're 5. um and everything is built and designed around here. You're not a complete person unless you couple up. Every single fucking Hallmark movie, um it's like, and it's bullshit. Nothing works like that. That's just not how it happens. And that's not what a true committed relationship is. That's a lot of work to make that continually um uh, work for both partner. I think that Kelly Ripa does a really nice job just sort of talking about her relationship. They seem to have a lovely marriage, but she talks about how much work it is, and how much compromise, and how much you have to deal with. And I love Whoopi is just being like, I don't want to share. And I don't. I love that somebody said that, but Whoopi, you're so generous. She's like, yeah, but I don't need someone questioning my generosity. That's exactly the point. Not all of us need another person there to either to keep us company or make us feel valid, or to check in with, to get approval for whatever we're going to do. And I value my independence, and I'm not interested in. I've said this before. I'm not interested in someone else's opinion. Um, I mean, I am when I ask for it, and I'm not so egotistical that I can't accept another opinion, and have disagreements, and learn from other people. I can, um, That's not the point. The point is that you know, I'm much more comfortable and I'm much more happy on my own without having to answer to anybody. And some people feel that that's selfish. I find that liberating. Um, so there's that. But it was a nice discussion. It was nice to see someone on national TV just say, I only got married because society told me I was supposed to be married. It's not for everybody. And some people just probably shouldn't do it. And it really, I wish someone on that episode of The View had tied together the conversation between therapy and getting married because you're supposed to, because I think therapy would help all the people that end up in relationships they don't really want to be in, and they just cause themselves and the people around them heartache. Um, and so why voluntarily put yourself in a situation where it it breeds unhappiness? I don't know. I don't want to do it. Um, I like being happy. We should all be happy.